So this is not, no longer, highway trust fund money is not, it's not designated for airports or for highways, it's for all modes. Now there is another allotment of money called highway fund money, and that's O&M, that's operation and maintenance. And that money will be used to things not on that capital project list, such as pavement rehab, lighting rehab, maintenance type things that we participate with to keep an airport in good condition. And that will be awarded through our prioritization system within the division. So we'll still have a bucket of money that stays with the modes, is the way I understand that to be. All of this is for implementation beginning effective July 1 of 2015. So that's the money, this prioritization is kicking into effect, and it will actually go through all the steps of those points being applied. It'll go through all that next year, and then the board would give final approval, and it will be effective for state FY 2016, so beginning July 1, 2015. Yes?
Could you address how, as I understand it, if a project doesn't make the statewide, it can filter down to the regional and then filter down, you know?
I can.
Like cascade?
I can. Probably best to do this. Let's see. Okay. This is actually a couple of more slides that might help make a little more sense for this. So this is, I mentioned this was House Bill 817. It went into law 26, overwhelming House and Senate support. So I'm backing up now and getting a little more big picture for you because I feel like there's enough questions there. As I mentioned, it's the biggest significant transportation legislation since 1989. And the work group, which I was involved with, has been working on this for several months since the bill passed. So again, it involves, the work group took in input from a lot of partners, from the modes, from federal highways, advocacy groups, as well as local MPOs, RPOs, and the General Assembly. Ma'am, here's what you were asking, and this is $15 billion over 10 years. This is the projection out. This is, again, think of statewide, regional, and division. So statewide, again, is kind of a think about interstates. The focus of this is for congestion and bottlenecks on the interstate routes in your big areas like, again, at Charlotte Douglas would be capacity type things. 40% of the funds, or approximately $6 billion, would go here. Now, if projects were ranked here and the programming went down to, again, over a year, it'd be a little less than $1 billion. When the money runs out, the project can cascade down into the regional bucket. Okay? And so that is somewhat concerning, but again, if projects do flow down, the locals have 30% input, and you can choose not to put any points against that. The RPOs or the division engineers can choose not to put points against that to keep it in the statewide bucket. Okay, so chances are very good if it cascades down and doesn't have a lot of local support, it will not get funded.
Now, does that cascade down one more time?
It does, then it cascades down to the division. Okay, but now again you're at 50%. So if you've got theoretically a project in Asheville that had a lot of interest here and was supported locally by 30%, but then it cascades down and no local points are put against that project, it's probably not going to get picked up in the division. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Sure. Jim, we have what? Land of Sky, isothermal. Is there a third RPO in our division?
Some of part of High Country may be in the 11th.
We've got French Bar River MPO, the Land of Sky RPO. We've got Greater Hickory MPO, Unifor RPO, isothermal RPO.
I guess the question
And
is,
High Country, there's 6.
based on what Bobby's saying about the 50, or 50% of the points are by division, so that would be division out of Asheville, for division 13, and 25% presumably, or a quarter of them out of the RPO. Which RPO?
It's the one you fall in, which is isothermal.
So if an Asheville project is coming up,
It's competing for Division 13 points.
But I
It's
guess-
not competing in the RPO. The RPO will have its own set of points. So it will not compete because Asheville is not in the RPO.
But on this flow down, because we all know there is gonna be way more demand at the statewide level for major projects, $6 billion, and that's over 10 years.
10 years.
I mean, that's about 3 years worth of projects, so it's gonna be flowing down in a real big hurry from those massive projects into the division level.
Could. But again, it's going to have the local support because the locals don't put any score against these projects, but they begin to score these projects. And so again, it's the priority of the local RPO and the division on what projects they want to fund. So this gives the ability that those counties or those divisions that have interstates through them, do they want to keep it in the statewide, or is it important enough to them to actually give up some of their local points to score toward that interstate? And again, I'm talking highway just to kind of help it in your mind, but you can think about it as far as airports as well.
I guess, and this is kind of a question to Christina and Jim in your roles. Let's say in Asheville Airport, which is a regional airport, it's that second tier project, has a $10 million project, and the division gives it lots of points, and Land of Sky gives it lots of points, but there's not enough money to fund it. Does it flow down to the division level based on this? Then who does the Land of Sky points still count as the local points, or do the isothermal ones, because they're in our pot, if you will?
It's isothermal. And actually, and let me go on here, I think this is going to help you. All right, here's the map of region and divisions. Here's Rutherford County. So you're in Division 13, but actually notice that 14 and 13 are the same color because that's considered a region, okay? So 13 and 14 will have to collaborate and agree on the region projects where they're going to apply points, okay? Then on the division is just 13. So you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 counties in the division that the division office and division engineers will decide on their allotment of points what projects they're going to apply points to at the division. 25 points, and then the RPO, which you only have one airport in the isothermal RPO, will have 25 points, up to 25 points they can put. Does that make sense?
Up until I start thinking about the flow down, I'm good. Then I'm getting scared.
Yeah.
But also, as I understand it, this first go around, there's not going to be an opportunity to see what's filtering down because of the time frame. But from
It's
now,
all
from this
compressed.
point on, but the round 2, round 3, you'll actually get to see what makes it through the state, so they can
Right.
maybe that's what I'm looking for.
Rescore and
replan, you know.
yeah, and I'll hit that in this. So this is a little bit more on the legislation and what it's doing. And again, it's a 100-point scale. O&M, operation and maintenance expenditures, will be funded under the highway funds. It's not part of the STI, the Strategic Transportation Investment Legislation. Okay, and then again, I mean, here's just some more caveats. There's a project cap. No more than 10% of statewide mobility funds over 5 years, or $300 million, may be assigned to a single project. So those are some conditions that are placed on this. And no more than 10% of regional impact funds shall be expenditure on public transportation projects. So that's the busing systems and things that we help some of the rural urban areas and the public transportation. So again, some things stated right in the legislation. I guess some things that are excluded for us, it's the FAA funds are excluded, competitive and discretionary grants. So again, those will be still administered from our office to airports such as yourself, the block grant program. That's excluded from this prioritization process. Okay? And then this is just the eligibility definitions. I've already hit this for aviation, but this is under statewide for highways. This is what we're talking about. So it's interstates, the national highway system, so on and so forth. We're here to talk about airports. Here's aviation, but here's bike and ped, public transportation, ferry, and rail. And again, this is the definitions right out of the legislation. I've already covered all this in these other slides, so I'll quickly go. Here's the scoring criteria developed for highways, okay? and how they're going to score 100% points in their statewide 70-30. You know, again, you can kind of see that it's all the same as far as how that works. Non-highway modes in the legislation, this is what it stated. We got to look at it for all three categories. It's got to be separate. It's got to have 4 pieces of quantitative criteria. The local input is from the division, MPOs and RPOs, criteria based on 100% scale. Okay? So, and then this is the aviation scoring criteria, which I've already gone over, but this maybe is a better, clear slide for you. So statewide, regional, again, your division, so that's the 4 pieces of quantitative criteria that will score us up to 50 points. The other 25 points will come from the division rank, and the other will be, in this case, it'll be an RPO for you for 25 points, or 25% of the score.
And let me just look at this. And it's that one right there, that's the subject of the, if you will, discussion between the legislature and NCDOT executive team.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. That's one of a few things that
Well,
was
sure,
presented to legislation, right? Okay, and then the next step is what we call normalization, and that's basically bringing, again, all modes together now to score, and then it will be moved into programming. And again, there's some real challenges in doing this, some real challenges in doing this, but that's covered in this slide. This is maybe of interest to you. So imagine this is a big ship that hasn't really been hit with any new legislation since 1989, and now we're going to turn ship pretty significant. So they put in, based on historical funding, think of that $15 billion. Historically, the department's money has gone 93% toward highways and 7% toward non-highway modes. Okay? So what the work group recommended and has been proposed and the Board of Transportation approved and now it's been proposed to the General Assembly is to put a cap in so highways is going to guarantee get 90% of that $15 billion. The non-highway modes are guaranteed to get at least 4%. Okay, so nobody is going to strike out. Okay, until we go through this one full cycle and see how things rank and how things compete, because this is new territory. And so they're going to have these floors, if you will, put in there. So in essence, highways can go as high as 96% of the total highway trust fund. And non-highway modes could be, go as high as 10% here. Is the way that would work out.
As I understand it, that's average across the state, not per division, is that the
This
average
is
across the
regional
state?
and division.
Okay.
Okay? These floors are set for regional and division.
Oh, it's
Right? So,
Bob, I appreciate it. Another massive project that this board has been working on is, one is obviously the 221 4-laning is the #1 transportation project in the county. Folks also serve as county commissioners, and then the other one is promoting the interstate status of Highway 74 from 26 to 85, and the economic development corridor all the way from 26 to the port at Wilmington. So those that, as we look at those other projects, I think this has been a great effort. Well, Bob was there. This all applies. It's not just the airport projects, but all these other projects will apply too. And
let me show you a little more how that's going to apply. Local input points. And so use of regional impact and division need categories only. That's the only opportunity for local input points. The number of points are 1,000 points plus additional points based on population. So you can see here for each of the regional and division need categories, point allocation is up to you guys to allocate those based on project. There's a 100-point cap for any project, as I've said, and points can also be donated across RPO and MPO lines. So if